Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Lucas and Jay. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, Lucas, just so you know, you're not replacing me. Nice try, pal.
Jay's back. I tried
you
hard.
really mess with me. I'll edit you out the next episode. I don't care. It'll just be blank space. Kyle be talking to nobody next time.
Or you could turn him into one of those like shadows where you dub over his voice with the distortion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
We have an
like you said,
unnamed
witness
source who was
protection.
in here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about Dallas Open because that happened over the weekend, which I completely forgot about until just this moment. We got yet another preview article for Shadow Collective units, that being the Pikes. So we're going to talk about them. And we're also going to continue on our journey about Force users and talk about countering a Force user when you don't have one. So before we get into all that, you got some housekeeping for us, Jay?
I do. So this week only for May the 4th, we're running a May the 4th deal promo, I guess, and we're doing 20% off all Star Wars Legion product and our order tokens for this whole week. So if you just go to the website, Star Wars Legion product, order tokens, and you put in the code May the 4th spelt out, it's on our Facebook page, but May the 4th spelt out during the coupon code section of the website when you're going to check out, and you'll get 20% off. So I was seeing that deal that they were doing in the UK that Asmodee or whoever's doing, where it's if you buy the core set, you get like all these things for half off or something like that, and then you can pick a commander for free. And I was just like, oh, I wish I could afford to do that for everybody, but I can't. I guess it's nice if you make the game, you can make whatever deals you want, but that's great for the UK because I know, a lot of times overseas you guys don't get as great at deals as we do. So that's great for Europe and overseas. So I'm going to do 20% off because that's what I can afford to do. And I will pass that on to you guys. So May the 4th week here. So that'll go through Saturday, midnight on Saturday. You could get 20% off our order tokens and Star Wars Legion product. So.
Is that 4th like the number 4 TH or FO?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Well, no,
cool.
Spelled out the second way. FOURTH.
FOURTH.
Yeah.
So
MAY.
like 5th,
but the one before it, 4th.
Yeah. Right, I gotcha. Okay.
So
fully spelled out.
Yeah.
No number 4 in there.
I'll put it in the description for everybody here too. And then I'm probably going to try to get this episode out a little bit earlier this week just so we can, because I was so late last week getting it out. And I blame Bushman mostly for that, but
See, I thought you were doing it because I mentioned last week that my Invader game was before the cast. I thought you're doing me a solid and putting it out after my Invader game.
I was just fuming because you said you were replacing me, and I just was so angry. I was just like pissing.
It's like, I'm not publishing this. I can't put this up.
And then, housekeeping. We've got a ton of tools. You guys know about them. We talk about them every time. Legionstats.com, legionstats.thefifthtrooper.com. We've got legionhq.thefifthtrooper.com. That's then we got, I don't know, legionstream.thefifthtrooper.com. That's our streaming tool that's new. And then we have legionquickguide.com, which is just the RRG, but in a better format. And so you should use those because they're really cool and easy to use, and they're free. So use them.
And they're for you, Legion player.
Use them to your heart's delight. And then what else? Oh, hey, there goes my green screen, by the way. Did you guys see that? It just died back there. Completely.
I can see green.
For those of you on the YouTube, that's dead now. So that's fun. Anyways.
Wait, you're not in outer space, you mean?
Let me see if I can fix that as best I can. There we go. So anyways, what was I say? Oh, Patreon. Yeah. So I can get a new green screen. Clearly, if you guys support us on Patreon.
Things are falling apart.
Replace this stupid idiot green screen.
There
So yeah, support us on Patreon.
The green screen has been fired.
No, listen, we talk about why Patreon, right? It's we have writers like Lucas, who's also a co-host on this podcast. We have podcasters. We're putting on more writers. If you guys didn't hear the call, we've gotten some more people apply. You could go to the fifthtrooper.com and go to our about section, and there's like a little jobs thing, and you could fill out a thing. And we've got some more plans for the future for more content that we want to put out, and the Patreon supports all that. So patreon.com/the fifth trooper, and you can sign up and it'll be great, and you could support us, and that would be awesome. That's it, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
a lot.
That was a lot.
Stupid green screen. That's gonna bother me all night. Like, I won't be able to sleep. I'll just be like, I'm gonna throw it outside. I'm so mad. All right. Lucas, I'm just at a constant 5 inside, and one little thing just pushes me over the edge. Just blow up.
That's your secret. You're always angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Everyone
the
thinks
hawk.
I'm always calm and cool and level-headed. No, I'm just at like a simmering 5.
All right. How about we talk about the Dallas Open?
Yeah, it's interesting. Man, we were kind of ramping up with all these events before COVID, and then COVID swung around and everything just stopped, right? The whole world stopped, right? For everything, not just Legion, obviously. But now during COVID, we must have gotten this huge resurgence of players because there's like events everywhere. And, John has said on here that like the ELO rankings, like how do you get ranked? It's, well, you have a tournament of 20 or more. Right. And we're starting to see more and more of these. Like, for instance, there's this place, this game store down in Tampa, Luminous Games. They're putting on these tournaments and they're getting tons of people to go to these things, like over 20 players. I don't think they have a cap. I think they've got a big space down there that they're playing like, and this isn't like some big convention event, you know what I mean? This is just like somebody in Tampa is like, hey, I'm going to put on a Legion event, and all these people are going, and I just think this is what's going to make this game even greater than it is all these stores, TOs taking a chance and going, you know what, I'm going to put on an event, and then you, the players and listeners, going to those events, and supporting that. And because the more events we have, the more players we'll have, which means the bigger events will be even bigger. And all these companies and people will be able to support those and put more money into them when they know there's a player base coming. Why does 40K do so well? Why do all these conventions put so much into 40K? It's because they get hundreds and hundreds of players, right? Like, if we could get 200 to 300 players per large event like a Gen Con or an Adepticon, well, then we would get whatever we wanted to.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, down with 40K.
Down with 40K.
Yeah,
play Legion
Bring down
instead.
the Emperor.
But Dallas Open, yeah, sorry, that was my little tangent on. I'm just amazed at all these places. Like
Yeah.
Look at Rocky Top's coming up at the end of the month. I'll be at that, so if you're there, say hi. But like that went from like 10 players to over. They've got 64 now. So it's like, dude, it's amazing. Like, what's happening? I love this. So good.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Discord the other day, and I was shocked by how many tournaments are there's like a subsection for tournaments and cons, and there's 14 different channels in that subsection now for upcoming tournaments. So I was like, wow, that's a lot.
Over in Europe, too, they have tons of stuff. So as you guys know, I'm moving there, and I already have like 3 events that I'm booked to go to. There's a German Worlds qualifier that's happening in a few months. There's the M Norden, which is this big old tournament that's just been put on by the community. There's a Worlds qualifier in the UK. It's I think the London GT is the name of it. Should double check that, make sure I'm not saying it wrong.
You know what? I'm going to put you on the spot here. And I'm gonna require something of you right here. So, Lucas said he's moving to Europe, so he may not be able to rotate on Scoundrels as much. So what I want you to do, Lucas, is what we're gonna do is you're going to be our man in the field in Europe, and you're going to give us reports on what's going on in Europe. And so we'll do interviews with you on your time when you can do it. I don't have a life, so like whenever you want, I'll record it with you, and you can do a little man in the field action.
Sounds good. I'll give you some. It's the UK Grand Championship, by the way, not the London GT.
Yeah. So all you people in Europe that listen to us, bug Lucas for stuff now.
But
you
got to wear
tournaments.
You got to wear the man in the field hat from MXC, that Japanese show.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love that show. Oh my god.
We'll get you one of those hats.
Oh
yeah.
Lucas, you know what we're talking about?
Press bag. I don't know what show this
is.
You're too young for this.
Look up MXC. Most Extreme Challenge. Oh my god, it's so good.
Most Extreme Challenge.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
It's a real thing. That's the best part about it.
Oh my god, yeah.
All right.
Dang, these are some outfits.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, you took like the Savari hat.
Yeah,
like
yep.
Yeah. That's the one.
Oh man,
man in the field.
Perfect.
All right. What were we talking about? Dallas Open. Yeah, that happened in, I assume, Dallas.
One would hope.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was 6-round Swiss. There were 6 players that ended up 5-1. I guess they kept playing after they had.
Oh god.
This is the dreaded what happens if the X and O player loses in the last round of the paradigm. That's what happened. So I guess it looks like they did MOV. So the winner, based on that, was Matthew Millam, who was running actually a pretty interesting list. It was Vader with a bunch of snows, basically.
And
the
storms.
Short version.
But
and storms, yeah. Vader good. This was Operative Vader, by the way, not Commander Vader.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I thought was interesting was the duck and cover on the Scout Trooper strike teams.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone do that.
I was going to say the same thing.
It's so cheap now, and now that low profile is like actually good.
Yeah.
I could see it.
In the sniper fight, right? It turns light cover into cover 3.
I guess.
No. It turns light cover into cover 2. It turns cover 2
but then low
cover
profile
3.
bumps it up into cover 3.
Yeah.
Right? Because
he's saying you would have light plus the suppression, which would give you heavy, and then you would get
I
extra.
see. I gotcha. Yeah.
I guess right. Normally, light cover in the sniper war is basically open because they have sharpshooter, whereas this makes it so your sniper can go into light cover and still get that full low profile cover 3.
Yeah, except these are naked scout troopers.
Oh,
wait, they're naked full scouts. Sorry, they're not naked. They have duck and cover, but they do not have a sniper rifle. These are not strike teams. These are full scouts.
Oh,
so this is
I saw a DLT on the website. Maybe the
no, I'm looking
didn't load properly.
I'm looking at TT tabletop TO right now.
Yeah, 3 scout troopers, 48 points. Yeah, those are with duck and cover.
This is a threat saturation list, if ever I saw one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like it.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
Well, I think that mid, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking at it going, I listen, I know, like we've been talking about wanting to put Gideon in a set of snow troopers for a while. Well, no, not Gideon, the other one. But Gideon's a good move and snow troopers as well. Yeah, Dell's a good, But yeah, I think it's the Wild West, man. Like clearly anything is possible right now.
Yeah.
There's 2 other Empire lists in this top 6.
Yep.
1 Vader and 1 Iden, I think.
Yep. And then there's what else? The OP Luke gun line, right? The DLT gun line that we've seen a number of times now.
And then a droid list with no, I'm sorry, it is not Iden. It is Veers with an ATST. Man after your own heart, Jay.
Yeah.
That's
one.
Just one. And a bunch
you can't gatekeep Empire anymore, trader.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you
don't
guys
get to talk anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody's figured out how to play Empire now. Everyone's jumping on board. Yeah. I'm the one who's in the wrong.
Yeah. So it's Veers and an ST with a bunch of storms. And actually, I misspoke. It's just the one Vader because the other one is an item list. So
yeah. Fear, snow trooper, storms, targeting scopes on storms. Seems
That's
like
another
an
Gideon Haskin snows.
Yeah.
Is this the new thing?
It's funny. We were just talking about this on the Discord. It's kind of interesting. Like steady's a really good keyword. Gideon's a little expensive, I think, for that unit. But
it looks like he's doing some coordinate mischief with that one because he's got Gideon in the comms tech with an HQ uplink. So he's given them an order so that they can get orders to, I guess, one other core unit. I don't know. Maybe you give it to the storms. One of the, I don't know what you would give it to.
Well, it's for the recover turn, right? With Imperial Discipline. It makes it so you can hit your snows and all your storms all at once. Because right, normally it's Veers and two other troopers for Imperial Discipline.
Yeah, so then you've got your four main. Yeah, because he's got one naked storm in there too.
And so all the other storms have specialist T21s and targeting scopes. So I think he comes in with everybody, probably like coordinated fire. Is he running that? Yeah. And then turn to Imperial Discipline.
Okay, so here's my problem with that. Is you're not giving your order to the ATST, which is what needs an order in this list. Because you're leaving it in the bag with basically a commander, two strike teams, and an ATST. So if you got a 1 in 4 chance of pulling your ATST, like,
I mean, I'm sure you'd use one of those Imperial Discipline orders for the ATST.
Yeah, maybe. But then that goes counter to what Lucas was saying. You know, you think Lucas knows everything, and then he says something stupid like that.
And the ATST does not have link targeting array, so you might be right there, Lucas.
Yeah, I think he's just going to the bag. He's focusing on the core for that alpha, and then letting everyone else kind of just timing.
Hey, I mean, listen, this guy was second, right? Yeah, second.
Yep.
Jordan.
Then, so we've got those 3 Empire lists, and then we have a sort of a quote unquote standard separatist list with the double spiders and a super tack and magnus and everything, and then
nasty.
And then we've got one of those rebel DLT captain lists, and then the last one is a Republic Saber Anakin Padme list. So more standby sharing with the Saber tank. This one featuring Anakin instead of Yoda.
And that one got third. So for those of you keeping track at home, it's Imperial, Republic, Imperial, Separatist, Rebel.
Yep. So for those that were complaining that Imperial needs to win something,
2 tournaments in a row, they've been in the top 4.
Yeah, Empire's had a great win rate for a while. It just they haven't grabbed that top spot.
And one would argue, if there's 6 people that are 5-1, did they really win?
Well,
real winners were the friends we made along the way, Jay.
Yeah, we'll just say by being half of the 5-1s, Empire grabbed the win.
This observation while we're on the subject of Empire wins came up in Invader chat the other day. But how many players? So I will tell you that Empire has won 4 major tournaments in the US since 2019. How many players would you guess represent those 4 wins?
4.
No, because I already know 2 are 1 person. I'm trying to. One of those people is sitting here, so I got 2, and I'm trying to think of what the 4th one was. I think it's 3 people, maybe 2. It's 2, so it's you and Luke Cook.
There's only two players that have won majors in the US with Empire.
So you won. What was that? Nova
and Invader League season 3. If you count
and
that.
The other ones are Luke Cook.
Yep, and Luke was Worlds and LVO. Those are the only Empire US major wins. It seems weird that there's so few, but that's the number.
It doesn't seem weird. I think because every time it just like this, not the new developers, the old developers hated Empire Because every time something good for Empire came out, they would then release like Tauntauns.
Hey, why don't you go back to your Luke?
Like we would have
over here.
We would have short
hang on. No,
and
let's
troopers.
Let's get real here for a minute while we're talking about Tauntauns.
Would come.
There were 3 tournaments during the quote unquote Tauntaun meta where Tauntauns were in their unnerfed state.
Yep.
How many of those tournaments were won by Empire?
I know. Yeah, I know.
2 of them.
I was gonna say how many were won by Tauntauns. That's
one.
The
other one.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I don't think that was.
I'm just saying.
I just like to stir the pot sometimes.
Hey, traitors will be shot. Those are your words. Just remember
that. Long live the Empire. Okay. Anyway, what were you talking about?
I don't know. I think Lucas. You know what, Lucas? Fine.
So round out.
We're gonna do a live stream. Empire versus Empire. You bring your best Empire list. I'll bring my best one, and I'm going to smash you into the ground. And then you're going to be like, you know what? I'm glad Jay's not playing Empire anymore.
Let's do it. Just give me a time and date post graduation, pre-graduation. I'm sorry, I'm booked up.
That's fair.
All right, we're gonna do that as one of our, not necessarily one of our podcast episodes, but we'll definitely stream it.
Hey, how about you make it out of single elim for East Coast, and then we can play each other after that.
I'm out. Oh, single elim. Oh,
I'm in West Coast, so we both gotta make it out.
Right. All right. Well, let's see. I mean, I can't play Empire then, but I've already signed up with some.
Locked into Rebels.
Yeah, I'm already married on that one. I can't really have a side hustle, but yeah.
All right.
We're doing it. Kyle, just shut up. We're doing this, Kyle.
I know we're doing it. I'm excited about it.
You can't stop us.
You guys
got beef to settle.
I can't wait to stomp you in the ground. Oh, it's gonna feel so good. Everyone's gonna laugh.
So Jay, if I win this,
all right,
will the 5th trooper be mine? Will you put that on the line?
Yeah, but you got to pay all the bills too.
Okay.
All right. Good times.
We'll come up with something. We'll come up with something.
We'll come up with some real stakes.
Yeah,
some stakes. Yeah.
Some kind of embarrassing thing that the loser has to do.
Yeah. Like play Republic.
Come on. I might end up playing Republic for Atlantic City just because that's what's in my case still, and I haven't had time to paint anything. Seriously. Yeah, the waffling is bad. I've got some.
How about
still unpainted some BLT captains here.
Don't even bother. It's a flash in the pan.
I got some ISF over there. Mostly Gideon and Dell for use in a Palpatine list.
Wow.
But,
just in case any of you wondered how Kyle picks this list, it's whatever's doing well in the moment. You just hear them. Captain, DLT captains, and ISF. Yeah. Wonder how you got those ideas, Kyle.
For use in a Palpatine list, Jay.
All right, I'm done. I'm sorry. I've derailed this enough. I was off last week. I was jealous that you guys got to talk about stuff without me.
All right. We are going to get to talk about Force users with you, though, in a minute, but we should probably do the Pikes first because that's like actual preview thing. So
super spicy.
Somebody want to tell us about the Pikes?
Yeah, I could hit it off for us. So we got some info about the Pikes, and we had spoiled the Pike Syndicate Foot Soldier unit. It's a 4-model unit in the what's the term? Affiliation. That's the new word. They're in the Pike affiliation. That's their top left corner. They're able to be played in Empire, Rebel, Separatist, and Gar. So all the factions. 4 models, white saves with the surge, no surging on offense, 1 health, 1 courage. In melee, they have 2 white dice with the stun baton, and their main weapon is the P13 long blaster, 1-3, 1 black dice. Similar to the Black Sun, they have a whole slew of keywords that go along with them. They have Danger Sense 2, Outmaneuver, Self-preservation, which is when you check whether you are panicked, you can only check from people in your own affiliation. You can't just use any commander. Then independent dodge at the start of the activation phase. If you do not have an order, you gain 1 dodge token.
Mm.
And they are 40 points because I think we already had their stats spoiled, but this gave us all the points because when you just see stats, you don't know exactly where that lands.
It's kind of meaningless without points. Yeah. I mean, this is a good, strong unit card. They're basically rebel troopers without nimble, but with some other stuff. Clearly, outmaneuver natively is good. Obviously, you can get that in rebel troopers if you just get a captain. But independent dodge, where they get a free dodge, also good. Potentially kind of a wash with like vigilance if you're using nimble with vigilance. Functionally similar, except of course they don't have nimble, so they can only spend that once. But they do have danger sense too, which is like a straight buff. You know, if they've got that suppression. The downside keyword is self-preservation. We talked about this one with Black Sun, but basically you're going to want to plan to make sure that these guys don't panic at 2 suppression. So you're going to want to either bring their counterpart leadership upgrade, which we'll get to in a second, I'm sure, which I think it's a capo.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Or just bring whatever the Pike commander, which is that same guy. And I don't think
it's the capo. We also had him spoiled, but we don't have numbers yet.
Okay.
Or points.
So they showed his unit card, but not the points. Okay. So yeah, you want to either bring that commander or the upgrade, because having a courage 1 core unit that panics on 2 suppression is really bad.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this is a keyword soup on this card clearly, but it's kind of a hidden cost of bringing these guys. So yeah, they seem pretty good.
I think the stun baton's kind of interesting. It's 2 white dice with no surges, so it's same average damage output as like a rebel trooper, but you can give this surges.
Yep.
And it scales a lot better with the surge than the other way. So it's kind of a side grade, but a little interesting. It's a little better if you're able to get a surge.
And you're kind of crit fishing, you know?
Yep.
It's clearly not as good as the Black Sun, red dice, fisticuffs, brass knuckles situation, but it's pretty good. It's something not to mess around with, especially if you give these guys a whip, which is one of their heavy weapon upgrades.
Yeah, so I could go through all their personnel upgrades and heavy weapons.
Yeah, go for it.
They have the Pike Syndicate Foot Soldier, and it's Pike Syndicate Foot Soldier only. It's the extra guy, 9 points. But this has cash aim, which means at the beginning of the game, you start with an aim, and you're able to spend that anytime during the game. So nice little upgrade. Don't mind having 1 free aim. Often people will bring stuff like the Stormtrooper Specialist, which is the same cost, and it's essentially a free aim. You can recover to get it back with the Stormtrooper Specialist, but pretty decent ability. Then also the Pike Syndicate Capo or Capo. It's Pike Syndicate Foot Soldiers only. You add the Capo, and you gain courage, 1 courage, so you're at courage 2, and you gain independent surge 1.
I think it's Capo.
I also think it's Capo, because
Like
I think it's short for captain, yeah.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, you're fired.
He's coming after me. Little did I know saying I'm his replacement in passing was going to get
just rage. I'm just raging all week.
Wasn't it 2 weeks ago that he was trying to replace me?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
You don't rage. You just let things go. You know, you're a nice Tom.
I'm just saying, Luke's an ambitious ladder climber. You know,
he is. Yeah,
yeah. I'm trying to get to the top.
Came after
he came
after the Empire and saying he's the best at that. Now he's saying he's the best podcast host. I'm gonna have to,
I never said that.
Just like my kids, I'm gonna have to knock him down a peg or two. Let him know who's the king of the kingdom over here. You know.
Yeah. I think these are both kind of interesting. I would only bring the foot soldier if you have Capo as your commander, so you don't have to deal with the courage situation. Also worth noting that unlike Black Sun, these guys do not have a keyword that natively lets them like not lose actions to suppression.
Yeah.
So even if you bring the commander, you're still only going to get 1 action if you have a suppression, which isn't great. So personally, I lean, like if I had to pick a personal upgrade to put on these guys, I would lean towards the Capo to give them courage 2 and that surge token. But cash aim is interesting. You don't have to use it till you need it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all that cash stuff is like it's still I've been having trouble like as I'm seeing this stuff come out, and I know we've talked about it and you guys talked about it a little bit last week, but like just having trouble wrapping my head around how what their place is in certain factions, and I think like some of these guys will probably have like an interesting place in Gar. But like other than that, I'm like, I don't know, maybe Empire, but I think the other ones are better. It's just like they seem, which I like. I think it's good. I think it's good that they're more like flourishes to lists than like, you're like, oh God, I got to take this thing. It's more like, no, I got to design something around this that makes sense to take this. Yep. You know what I mean? Which I really do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really dig them putting an actual ability on the quote unquote generic mini.
Yeah.
Rather than just having it add a body. I think that's really interesting.
Well, because why would you take them?
Right.
Like no one takes them, right? That was the whole joke. Everyone asked why we're called the fifth trooper. And it was because you have a unit of 4 and you never take the 5th one and you're always left out. And so that was the joke.
Original joke.
Yeah. The original joke of the 5th trooper, right? Because it's just like they do nothing and they're just an extra body. And you're like, well, I could spend that money somewhere else, Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Lucas.
Let's hit these heavies real quick.
Yeah. So to round out all the spoilers, we also have the Electro Whip Soldier, which adds 1 mini. It is melee to range 1, and it has 2 red dice, immobilize 1, and suppressive, all for 10 points. So very cheap, heavy upgrade, only 1 point more than the foot soldier for keeping track. They also have the P13M Disruptor Soldier, which is again Pike Syndicate, foot soldiers only, range 1 to 4, 1 red, 2 blacks, impact 1. So it's kind of like a DLT, but with more dice.
Yeah, I think these are both super interesting. The only
Empire DLT.
Yeah, Empire DLT.
Yeah.
My only concern really with the Electro Whip, I really like it, but the white defense dice kind of worry me a little bit with that, right? Because you want them to get into the mix with things or get close to something that could very easily wipe them off the planet with white dice, and so it's interesting, and I'm not down. I don't know, we've got to see it and start playing it and get some use out of it. I think it's very interesting. And go ahead, Lucas. Sorry.
It could be cool as like a one of. It's only 10 points. So it's kind of just an extra body. And then like if a dewback is coming by, you whip a dewback, it's stuck in place. And, if you're playing something like a rebel dodge spam gun line, if dewbacks get into your gun line, those guys are toasted. So maybe, having 1 whip in there is a nice deterrent to slow down some of those melee units, give your gun line time to shoot them before they engage. It's only 10 points, right? It doesn't seem that good, but for 50 points total, right, you're getting a 5-man unit that's a hedge against melee and then can also shoot with 5 blacks at range 3. Not the worst thing.
And they gets free dodges and has that maneuver. So,
free dodges.
Like, do you really want to spend your time shooting a 50-point unit that has free dodges and that maneuver?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting as this strikes me very much as a defensive weapon.
Mm-hmm.
I could even see this. I mean, you mentioned it bringing in a list where maybe you don't have like your own melee counter like a force user, but I could even see it sort of alongside a force user because you could force push something, into a standby from these guys, or force push something and then whip it.
Whip
makes
it real good.
Whip it good. And, it just gives you like another tool in your toolbox against those melee threats is like a nice little soft melee counter. I definitely would not try using this offensively. These guys they don't appear to be an assault unit. Maybe somebody will prove me wrong, but this feels to me kind of like the rad cannon on the B1s, where it's like, man, if you could take this on B2s, which is like a real assault unit, that'd be amazing, but you can't. This kind of feels like the same category. The fact that it's so cheap, I think, makes it legitimately worth thinking about.
No, I think it's great. Like I've really so far the few things that we've seen, and granted, I don't believe are game breaking, and I think are just really interesting added pieces to all. Like that one's for all 4 factions, and the other one's only for 2. But like it's just super interesting. And I'm just going, oh, that's kind of cool. Like you could do this or this, but it's just not those like auto takes. I really like it. I think they did a great job on these so far. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah,
like because it's one of those things like if you don't have it, you don't feel like you're missing out either.
Yeah, like you might pick up one to try it or something, but it's if you're not picking up Shadow Collective, if you're not collecting Shadow Collective, you don't feel like obligated to buy it because you're going to be like totally hosed if you're not running something from it, which I think is great. And the Disruptor, not a ranged 4 immobilized weapon, as was initially thought. It's just like a normal, like you said, I think a good comparison is the Empire DLT. Clearly better at range 3 because you're adding the black dice from the rest of the unit. And then that's actually like a pretty, it's not a super spiky pool like a Z6 would be, but you're talking about 6 black and a red, or if you take the capo, 7 black and a red, which is a pretty reliable pool.
And if you have the capo, you have that surge too.
Right. So yeah, that's a decent range 3 pool.
Yeah.
Now that's 80 points. So that's getting on the upper end of core units. But if you're considering paying 77 points for a rebel DLT with a captain and situational awareness, this is 80 points for something that functions kind of similarly, a little bit less good, range 4 poke because it doesn't have the critical, maybe a little bit easier to like get up and running. The dodge spam, there's sort of a first turn danger zone where like you don't have your dodges up yet. These guys start with dodges, so it feels very similar functionally to a rebel DLT captain with situational awareness to me. Which like if you could take those in factions that aren't rebels, you probably would consider it.
Yeah, I was gonna say they feel very similar, but only rebels can take a dodge spam DLT army. Whereas if you want to do something similar, you could slot these guys into any faction. I think there is also another case where these guys really shine is potentially in a Gar army with 100%. Exemplar sharing. Because what does Gar struggle with? Cheap core units is one, right? These are a fairly inexpensive core unit. And then you also have really powerful exemplar token sharing mechanisms between Padme and Anakin. And these guys have baked into them outmaneuver, which is like exactly what you want. And they're not that expensive. So I could definitely see you slot some disruptors and capos into an army with some blue Padme.
And I mean, even if you've got some of the these are perfect candidate, I think, for targeting scopes. Like, Kyle, you were talking about, not having some of that punch, but you throw some targeting scopes on here. Well, now you're going to have some more opportunity for that, I think.
Especially if you have exemplar aims. Yeah, I think these guys are really interesting. I think they're most interesting to me in Republic and like an Anakin Padme exemplar list. The cheapest that you can get a core unit that has outmaneuver right now in Republic is 91 points. These guys, if you grab that Disruptor and the Kappa, are 80, and that's a Courage 2 unit. So, that's only 5 more points than a Phase 1 Z6, which is Courage 1. Now, clearly, they cannot share clone tokens, and obviously they also don't have red saves. So those are 2 pretty significant drawbacks relative to like a Phase 1.
Yeah.
But if you have access to exemplar tokens, that sort of hedges against that non-access to clone tokens a little bit. And then, they have danger sense and they have outmaneuver. So that might make up a little bit for the lack of red saves. So if you're building like a core-centric Anakin Padme list, you have to take 3 clones anyway. So you might as well take your 3 clones, maybe make 2 of them like beefy clones with Overwatch or something, and then take your naked Phase 1 as your 3rd clone, and then take like 2 of these guys.
Yeah.
And you save some points over, either a Phase 1 with a captain or a Phase 2. So
It allows you to really flesh out the rest of your army a little more. Because I feel like sometimes clone lists always have, I often will see like one naked phase 1 or something kind of in there just to get activations up and share tokens. Whereas saving some of these points, maybe now you don't have 4 clones kitted out and 1 naked one. You could have 3 kitted out clones and 2 pikes. Save some points, make a little more well-rounded army.
These guys are potentially also pretty interesting in droids, just as a unit that can kind of like do its own thing. People joke about AI not being a non-keyword because it's so easy to mitigate with coordinate. But in order to mitigate it with coordinate, like your B1s have to be within range 1 of each other. So doing things like flanking or doing an objective somewhere else, or just dropping a unit on a flank and doing its own thing, that's often not an option that droid players have, and these guys would give them a way to do that besides taking a B2, which is again a little bit more expensive. So clearly they're not as beefy as a B2, but they're also cheaper. So it's a little bit cheaper of a way to get 1 or 2 units that can kind of act independently of your main droid swarm in droids.
Yeah, we got one other card spoiled that is not particular to just the pikes, but it's a general gear. I believe it will come in the pike box, but this is prepared supplies, which is cash 1 dodge. It's a gear and it's 5 points. So a dodge for 5 points. Maybe in one of those dodge spam lists, if you're really worried about that turn 1, you for 5 more points a pop. Now with your 2 vigilances, your whole gun line just has dodges all game long. It's a little expensive to do that, but maybe that's one case.
Yeah, I love that this card is 5 points and not like 3 points or 2 points. This to me seems like perfectly priced to kind of make you think about spamming it. Because this would be a clear, I'm running a DLT captain situational awareness dodge spam list. I just want to take 5 of these. But then you're paying 25 points for that, which is kind of a lot. But it's good enough that you're like, hey, this is an on-demand dodge is a really good ability for 5 points. Like you might consider that on quite a few. I mean, I could see this on Sabine in her second gear slot, take a recon intel and this thing with situational awareness. And then you've got an on-demand dodge to proc nimble. I could see this on Commander Luke. How many Force users would love an on-demand dodge? Jin could be potentially interesting. Iden.
If you look at this on Iden, I was just gonna say.
This is a really interesting upgrade. I'm very glad that it's 5 points and not less than that. This seems like the right price for it. Right price.
I totally agree, because if it was cheaper, it would just be too easily spammable. But at this cost, you might take it on a core here or there in certain lists, but especially for heroes, it's still more of a choice, like all the people we just listed. So I'm a big fan of both these units so far. I feel like from first looks, I like where they're at. They each have places that they seem interesting, but nothing that jumps out as like, my fear with the pikes when I first saw that was spoiled that they're in all 4 factions before we had the points is like, I hope they're not really good, because I don't want to roll up to every table and it to just be, what faction flavor of pikes are you playing? So I'm very happy that they ended up in a place where there's definitely some armies, like the clone army, it seems real strong in, maybe in a rebel army, or say you're in a faction and you want to do a gun line that's more like the rebel dodge spam gun line, but you're not rebels. You could take a bunch of these, build out something similar. You could do I could see something cool with like Maul and some pikes. So you could have more of like a Maul gun line, because I really like Maul, but the thing that makes me hesitate sometimes is there was the B2 army Kyle did, but I really like a force user with a gun line. And I feel like Maul would be so perfect if he had like a really tough gun line behind him. And so I could see some pikes with Maul just so that he has that range firepower, because Maul is like uniquely good at far range fighting and going in and out.
Well, and I was looking at this from the Rebels side, because that's what faction I'm playing right now, Lucas.
Traitor.
but but these guys kind of allow you to do some like a little bit of both. And like one of the lists I was looking at was like a double Tauntaun, double Wookiees, 2 Pike syndicates with the Disruptor and the Capo, 3 Rebel troopers with the DLT, and a Rebel officer with Vigilance. So you could have all these range 4, like, putting down suppressive fire while your melee units run up the sides and just like crash into the enemy unit, and I think because they're a little bit cheaper, they allow for that, and they have different options. Cheaper is probably not the right word, but they have allow for different options that just open up a whole different world.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I feel like everything so far that has been previewed, like the pricing is like on point.
Yeah, chef's kiss. Mwah.
Mwah. Yeah. Like, do I want this? I don't know. It seems really interesting, but I'm not sure if I want to spam it. Yeah.
They'll definitely see play, but I don't think they're going to just like dominate tables.
Yep.
No.
Okay. Is that it for Pikes?
We did it.
Awesome. I guess we can talk about the commander when we actually know how much it costs.
Yeah,
that'll make more sense.
I think we spoke about the Pikes before, but the tough part is when you don't have points, it's so hard to come up with lists or how it's going to fit into the meta because, yeah.
We'll wait to do the commander until we have that full unit card. All right. How do you counter a force user when you don't have a force user?
Yeah, so shoot them a lot.
You shoot them.
In Invader League, I've been playing with the Iden Dubak's army, and I think 3 out of my 5 games all had force users. And I feel like something I hear pretty often is some people say, I bring a force user because I don't know how to handle a force user without my own force push and force user to handle them. And I feel like that's something I've heard quite a few players echo. And so I think it's a fine balancing act, but you can definitely do it. So it was one of my thoughts with talking about this is what are those things, if you're used to having the crutch of your own force push in your army to deal with an enemy force user, how can you do it without that?
What are those things, Lucas? Tell us.
Yeah. I think there's a variety. First is flanking. I typically try to flank the force user early. Okay, so I think I'm coming from a gunline perspective. Right now, a long range gun line, and I will often try and get flanks with either my snipers or my long range threats. So I used to play a lot of Bosk Krennic also before I did the Iden army, and Bosk is really long range. And so I'll often do is try and get on flanks of your enemy force user to get early damage. Because if you can get that damage early, it's much easier to deal with them once they get in. And there's only so many line of sight blockers. And if you deploy properly, you can often get that flank and get some early shots because they could go very defensive and far back, but that gives you more time to maneuver, get into position to take care of them. But if they deploy aggressively, go for those flanks, go for those early shots, especially don't be afraid to shoot them with snipers because they can't dodge your snipers if you're Galactic Civil War snipers. So I think first steps early on, if you can, try to get those flanks, get those opening shots.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's similar with heavies. There's 2 options. You shoot them or focus fire on them, or you ignore them until you can't anymore. Those are your options. And that's why I think, like, for me, the transition from playing a double heavy list over to a Luke Sabine list, they're very similar in that kind of like mindset, right? And it's like, okay, I want them to have orders. I want them to not get shot, and I want them to kill things before they die. Like, these are all the general like base things that I want out of those 2 units. And I would say, one of the things too is, Lucas talk about flanking, but even if you can just get in some shots, like even if it's just sniper shots or just if it seems even minimal at the time, just do it anyways, because the war of attrition, right? Because by the time a force user is going to make their big moves, is going to be a couple turns in, generally speaking. And so if you can stack some suppression and wounds on them before they can get into that into that attack, then that's, you're going to make your opponent think twice, like, oh God, should I dive in? Or, he's already got 2 wounds. They've already got 2 wounds. What should I do?
Yeah.
Right,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was say snipers with high velocity. If you can get those shots, if you get 1 damage through, even if they're in heavy cover, right, that's a 50-50 chance that they're going to take that wound, assuming they don't have a surge. Vader's obviously a little different.
Yep.
But that's huge, right? Most force users are roughly 6 health. So if you get 2 sniper shots on average, you're going to get a wound through, and you just did 1/6 of your work for taking out this force user. Because uniquely high velocity and keeping them dodgeless is really powerful. So don't be afraid. You might feel like you're wasting it because they're immune pierce, but I think that's a big misconception. Shoot them with them snipers, because a wound on a force user is better than a wound on anyone else.
100%. Yeah. I mean, think about the fact that force user has basically the same amount of health as like a stormtrooper unit, right?
Yep.
Like 6 health, 7 in Jedi Luke or Vader's case, or 8 in Commander Vader's case. Clearly 7/8, that's getting to be a lot, but like 6 health is really not that much. And those red dice are really fickle. So if you make them roll saves, clearly you shouldn't necessarily expect to kill them with that early chip damage. But it's more about limiting options, right? If you have a force user and you're thinking about getting in there on turn 2 or 3 or 4, and you've already taken a couple of wounds, that really changes your calculus, because, at some point you're getting into that danger territory where, you can't safely hide in melee if the thing that you're in melee with, even if it's not a melee unit, can just randomly get lucky and punch you to death. Right. And once you're taking like, 3-ish wounds, you're kind of in that territory where if you melee a stormtrooper unit, they might just punch you to death. It's that early chip damage is more about limiting options than having some kind of realistic expectation of killing them outright. Clearly, if that happens, and you get super lucky and they roll some bad saves or something, great.
Right.
But it's still useful to do wounds to them just to limit their options early.
Okay, so Kyle, I've hid Luke really well. You haven't been able to get any shots on him. We're at a point in the game where I have to dive. Like, I'm coming. What do you do?
Take standbys.
Yep.
Maybe they get shot off. Maybe they don't. Standbys are often, again, more about limiting your opponent's options than anything else. Like, once you take a standby, you've kind of taken tempo, right? Because if you've got a standby and your opponent has to move into range of that standby to do something with their force user, then they can't go with their force user right then. They have to go with something else to shoot that standby off. And then once they've done that, you can take another standby, right? And sometimes you can stake standbys in locations where they can't shoot them off. A lot of force user lists are kind of shorter ranged. Take those standbys. Like, it's kind of an oversimplification. But the other thing too is, if you can't get shots at all early and that force user, try and just eliminate activations. Whatever like the cheapest, squishiest thing is, kill it. Because force users really like to go last. And if you've killed 2 or 3 of your opponent's activations and you've got 10 and they suddenly have 7 or 8, like, they can't go last. You get to go 2 to 3 times after they go. So
if they're really hiding them hard. So in Invader League this season, a lot of my games, like I said, is playing against force users. And something that would catch people off is, I'm playing the tac strike list. I would put Iden and Dell on their snipers and just turn 1 tac strike and double move, shoot their snipers and try and knock, that's 2 crits with Pierce 1 that often will kill a sniper. And against many force users, them after turn 1 being at 8 activations, that really limits what they can do, because force users, kind of like Kyle said, it only takes a few big hits to bring them down. So it's really careful with their health. And so if you can take out those activations, now if they dive, you might have 2 to 3 remaining activations you could potentially withdraw, shoot them, set up with extra standbys. You could, set up a standbys, and now you have 2 people who can just straight up go after that, even if they deal with the standbys. Eliminating activations. If you can't get at the force user, just start knocking off activations. It doesn't matter if it's mortars, snipers. It's another low health. I guess separatists don't have too many super low health things. trying to think what's a good thing to knock off for a separatist, because spider droids are kind of hard to kill. B1's got a lot of wounds. B2s are kind of hard to kill.
I usually focus on B1s. I mean, yes, they have a lot of wounds, but they also have paper thin armor. So
yeah,
like every paint you can push through is going to be a B1 that you're picking up.
I agree. And I find here's a little tip for you CIS players and what not to do. I find that people are a little bit more aggressive with those B1s because they have that mindset of all the health. Like they're like, oh, this is going to be fine. And then if you're just like, shoot, they're like, oh, this isn't fine. They're gone now. So yeah, I agree with that.
I think another really big thing with fighting force users when you don't have your own is knowing your range bands for engagement. For example, with the force user with force push, you cannot leave anything roughly 16 inches within them that has activated, because they can move, force push and engagement, and now they're in your army. So a really big thing with the gun line, if you don't have a force user, typically, right, if you have your own force user, the way people get around really needing to worry about that is if the force user dives in early, you just force push them out and shoot them. As a gun line, you don't have that luxury. So you really have to know that band so that you can basically pick the turn where the force user can engage you. And so, right, speed to movement is roughly 6 inches. A force push is roughly 4. So it's about range 2.5-ish is their engagement range. With burst of speed, it's over range 3. It's getting closer to range 4. But if you can keep those range bands in mind and make sure that they can't bubble wrap, double move and engage, you just really want to make sure you don't activate a unit and leave them at that range band, because you're just giving that force user an in.
Yeah, it's a big no-no, leaving an unactivated unit in range of the force user. Or I'm sorry, an activated unit. It's gone already.
That's what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
It's
like as soon as that happens, you're like, yes.
There's my fool. I can go now.
Oh, look, somebody wants a hug.
What have you done?
Yeah.
So remember that force push. It's 4 inches farther than you think.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of like the other thing too. A lot of this can simply come down to just forcing your opponent to delay. And just making them wait too long for it to even matter, right? Because the other thing I noticed is people get really scared when you have but if you could force me to delay with Luke and then maybe push up like a nonsense unit if you're ahead on points or whatever, and just like have them be like, the lambs to the slaughter or whatever, to just kind of like stop the force user from moving forward anymore. Like that's also a good move too. Don't be afraid to engage when you're ahead on attrition, and if they make it too much closer into your lines, like they're gonna wipe out 2 or 3 units, just stop them and slow them down earlier, when they don't have any other choices. It's always a good move too. And
sometimes, right, force users can only do so much a turn, and sometimes kind of just like sacrificing your cheapest stuff to tie up a force user while the rest of your army goes in can work. It's very risky and kind of like a risk sometimes you have to take, though. But I'll often find that in the list I'm currently playing, I have a lot of naked core. And sometimes if I'm getting flanked by a force user in the gun line, I'll kind of intentionally fend off the force user with my naked core, because they can only chop up 1 unit per turn at best. Right. And those core units are 40 points each. So say over the course of the last 3 turns they engage, kill 3 of my core, that's only 120 points or so for a roughly 200 point force user, while my Dubex and Iden and my tack strike is just mowing down their army. Sometimes a sacrifice you can make. That army is a little unique in that, because you can flank super hard and kind of just like leave your core off to dry and like go in with your Dubex and deploy your tack somewhere else to get that weird flank. But even with the gun line, right, you might have some cheaper, weaker units that you can kind of sacrifice to let your big hitters continue to bring down their army.
Yeah, and I would say to that point, right, because Lucas said something that triggered something in my brain, where he said generally they can only kill and attack 1 unit. So one of the things you want to do is be aware of what force user you're going against and what their cards do, especially their command cards, because there's some force users that they're going to be able to kill multiple things in one turn. So watch that. That's always something to watch.
Yeah, I mean, really, most of them have at least one card that does that, right? You got Luke with Son of Skywalker, Palpatine, obviously, and Now You Will Die. Although he's kind of a unique. He almost doesn't apply to this conversation because he doesn't generally hide in melee and charging.
Yeah.
But Dooku with Fear, Surprise, Intimidation, Yoda with his 1 pip or his 2 pip, or just Yoda normally because he can attack twice.
Yeah.
And then Maul might be the only one. Like Vader has Implacable. Maul might be the only one that really doesn't have a card like that. Come to think of it.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, no, I guess he has Hello There.
Hello There
can sometimes be that. Yep. Anakin also doesn't.
That's true. Anakin doesn't. You're right.
But but they're gonna do some other trickery, right? That's gonna mess with you, and so
Anakin's gonna be force pushing your shit into exemplar standbys.
Yeah. And you just, and like one of the things, like Luke OP has disengage, which trips people up all the time.
Yeah,
and
do
so
not forget that.
Yeah, these are things, if you have a general working knowledge, and then roughly, like, that they have this potential to do this at some point, you'll be in okay shape. But you just got to have a general working knowledge of some of the command cards and roughly what they do. You don't need to have them memorized, but just know that Vader's going to be able to toss your stuff up on a building and throw it across the board, and Luke's going to be able to come in and attack twice and disengage, and you just have to have a kind of cursory knowledge that could happen at some point and be ready for it. And I don't think you can ever be 100% ready for it, but try to be as close as you can, because that's the other thing I find, and you guys could correct me if I'm wrong here, but Force users are very like flip-floppy. Like they can be really bad and I can do something and you could just kill them, and then there's a game that literally never die and they'll just kill your entire army. It's so weird how they work and how things are set up. And so no two games that you're going to experience, even if you played the same list twice, will be the same with a Force user, because their ability to just like not die one game and then die in the first round the second game is just unbelievable. And so
I feel that.
Yeah. They can hold on with 1 health or 2 health and do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Just as one last thing, don't be afraid to just punch them. Especially if you have something like, clearly if you have a specialized melee unit like Wookiees or Royal Guard or Magnus, like that's what they want to be doing, right? But even if you just have a random core unit and they have at least black dice, clearly you want to assess the situation. Like if they for some reason went into an unactivated unit and you can just withdraw and then shoot them with everything, you should do that, right? But if you're in a situation where your choices are like punch them or just withdraw and then not get much out of that withdrawal, like don't be afraid to just punch them. Stormtroopers especially are deceptively good at punching things because they surge on black dice and then they have precise with an aim. So like, you've got a 5-man Stormtrooper unit that's 5 black dice. You're re-rolling 3 of those. Your chances of getting 4 to 5 hits into a Force user are pretty good. Even if he's got a dodge, that's like a wound or 2.
Sometimes with Stormtroopers in particular, I'll sometimes go first in melee with the Force user because I think I might be able to punch them to kill them. Especially if they're on 2 health. Because say you have a Stormtrooper specialist unit and like Luke came in, chopped a unit, and then Force pushed you in. An aimed Stormtrooper hits like as hard as most Jedi because their immune pierce. So 6 surging black dice with a aim that rerolls 3, you can hit real hard. So when those Force users get low, do not be afraid to punch them out. And shoot to kill. If you need to bring that Force user down, I sometimes see people underestimate how many shots it takes, but when you get those opportunities, like say they move into an area where you can see them and they timed it incorrectly, or they mismeasured something so that you're just in range where your stuff can shoot to kill with everything. Like I've had my games where like I killed a Vader in one of my Invader League games by getting 2 wounds in by aim shooting with a stormtrooper that was naked and a naked shore trooper. And, they were both very close to Vader, but I knew that I needed to kill Vader that turn. So I just took everything in my army and aim shot Vader. And just, you could say, oh, well, it's a waste to leave your whole army there instead of progressing. But with Force users, once they are in and you're not in a position where you can ignore them, you have to shoot to kill. And so don't be afraid to overcommit to killing them, because you'd rather like leave all your guys back and just smash the Force users in the ground and be 1 turn behind on, something else than you underestimate however many shots it takes. That Force user survives with 1 health, and then Vader's mites and chucks something onto a building, chops down another unit, and Force pushes a guy. Like,
you gotta commit to it.
When they need to die, you are all in on killing that Force user.
Yep, absolutely. And especially like if they don't have dodges, even if you have something that seems like a better target, like if they're in heavy cover and they don't have a dodge, shoot them. If there's like some other unit in the open, shoot the Force user. If they don't have a dodge. So yeah. And if they do have a dodge, don't be afraid to shoot them either. Those deflect wounds only happen on 1 out of 6 dice. I know everybody's had that moment where they get like burned by some crazy deflect roll, but generally speaking, deflect rolls are less rare. They're half as rare as a blank, right? Other way around. They're half as common as a blank.
But they're
twice as likely to take a wound than they are to deflect one back.
Well, and a Force user wound is more expensive than anyone else. So you're twice as likely to wound the Force user as get deflected. And Luke only has 7 health and costs like 200 plus points, and you kid him out. Like a specialist stormtrooper unit has 6 health and it's only 70, 80 points.
Yeah.
So, 2 stormtrooper units are still cheaper than Luke, and that's 12 wounds. So you're totally fine with taking deflects if it means, like, if I had a stormtrooper unit that shoots in and gets a wound and takes the deflect, that is a massive win.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and
if I take 2 deflects back, that's still a massive win.
Right, and it's a dice game, right? Like I had a game a couple of weeks ago where literally 1 turn I had the dodge and rolled 4 blanks, and then the next turn I had the dodge and rolled like 4 to 7. I don't even know. It was a ton of like surges, like a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
And like it was just like, yep, that was 1 game. Like it both happened, right? And I think this is more of a off Force users and more of a Legion like advice. It's like, don't let any dice roll, good or bad, sway you and put you in a bad headspace, because if you wait for it and you're watching the game without that emotion, you'll see that that rolls back around in your favor.
Yep.
And sometimes you're going to have a game where at the end the dice just don't go in your favor and it loses you the game, and it happens. But I can guarantee there was a bunch of dice rolls in that game that went in your favor, right? So it's just part of the game.
Yep.
I had a game against a case where I was having terrible rolls the whole game. All my red saves were blanking, and it was really getting me down. But then I shot 6 hits into a Dooku and he full blanked, and it was like instantly swung back. And so sometimes like the dice just, you might be blanking everything all game, but it'll eventually come back around. And it's easy to get tilted with the Force user, because sometimes, you'll get a really great shot and get like 6 hits through and they'll just full save out. But you can't let that get you down. You might be like, oh, why am I shooting this Force user? But like, you can't get in that mindset. It's kind of like I said, you gotta kill that Force user and put them in the dirt. So don't stop shooting them.
Yep. Cool.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah. No.
Kill them.
Shoot
them. Don't let them engage you.
Yeah, that's it.
It's nothing but the hard-hitting analysis here, folks.
Yeah.
How to counter Force users. Kill them.
Shoot.
Do wounds to them.
Just roll crits.
Yeah, there you go. Just roll crits.
Yeah.
And make sure they don't roll any blocks. You're good.
That's Luke Cook's strategy. Just roll crits.
Just roll blocks is better than just roll crits.
Yeah.
New meta. Okay. Any final thoughts before we get too far off the rails here? Oh, Invader. Should we? It's already super late, so let's like super fast
I
invading.
honestly did all my games so early and got them all out of the way. I forgot Invader League was even going on still. Like it's like I'm so bored waiting for single elims. So I made it out of my group. I had one loss to the guy that went 5-0 to Kodak, and so I am officially in elims. Nice. Elims. So that's good.
I talked about my game last week that I had, and I ended up winning it against Vader. Essentially, it was hemmed in and I was blue, and I was able to get him to split Vader from his main army. And with standbys and tack strike, I was able to force him to keep his Vader behind a line of sight blocker, or else risk getting hit by tack strike. And I just went after the gun line, kind of took it out. And then by the time Vader got in, the gun line was already kind of torn to shreds.
Nice.
Still a very close game, because once Vader did get in, he just started killing everything and putting my army to work, but was finally able to finish him off. And despite Vader killing a whole bunch of stuff, once Vader went down, right, you're able to lock it. So that puts me at 5-0. So I will also be making it into single elims for the West Coast.
Well, I won my fourth game, which put me at 4-1. And that does not guarantee that I will be making it to single elims. Because there's a chance, there's essentially one game left in our pod to play, which will happen by the time this cast goes out. It's going to happen Tuesday night. Between
I may put
Bees
this
and
out
Captain
Tuesday.
Cook.
You don't know.
That's true. So yeah, if you do, then go watch that game if this comes out in time. It's Bees and Captain Cook. Captain Cook is currently 4-0. He's the one that beat me. Bees is 3-1. So if Bees wins, then they will both be 4-1, and we'll have a 3-way 4-1 tie.
The dreaded 3-way 4-1.
The dreaded 3-way 4-1 tie. So Bees is the one who has his destiny in his hands, and also mine. Yeah, we'll see what happens. It doesn't feel good to be just waiting on the sidelines to see if my 4-1 is going to be good enough or not. But I will be wishing good luck to both of those guys anyway. Bees is a good dude, so if he wins and ends up bouncing me, I won't feel too sad about it. But yeah, good luck to you guys. I'm sure you'll have played this game by the time you hear this. But
yeah, it should be a fun one.
Yeah,
and then I think update for other people. Mr. Doc Velo, aka Doc Evan, has also made it into single elims with his group. He's 4-0 in his group, and there is no one that can take his spot essentially at this point. So he has made it in. And then we also have Timbo. Timbo on the West Coast went 4-1 and got the top seed in his group and will be going to single elims. And then I think John told us last week, but John also finished pretty early like Jay, and he's in. So in the West Coast bracket, I think we're now fifth troopers, almost a fourth of all the people in the West Coast are be single elims. So at some point we're going to have some team kills. Hoping it's later on, but we'll see.
Am I the only fifth trooper player playing that is not?
Grammar.
Okay.
I don't think he's in.
Okay. That would have been quite an amazing sweep. Otherwise. Well, good luck to everybody that still has games to play to decide if you make it to elims or not. Yeah,
we got 2 weeks. The 14th, I think, is
it's 14th or 15th.
It's getting close.
We got some game a week, right? Each round's about a week long.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I look forward to the whole East Coast, West Coast, Europe, Australia thing. I think it'll be kind of fun to have.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Once you make it out of your group, you're kind of representing your area. It makes a fun competition between the two coasts.
It's so much better this way.
It is. Yeah. It really is.
It's just so much better. I'm like, you guys know, once again, I have talked mad shit about Invader League for years.
Yeah.
And this season, as soon as they announced how they were doing it, I was like, oh, I'm 100% in. I can tell you, I am having a great time. It is so less miserable when I'm working with people on the same coast, because my God,
it's so much better.
Yeah.
It makes the scheduling so much better.
It's great, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. All the TTS mods that they've been making, and adding on there. A good majority of them have been really nice and good, and I don't know. This has been a great season. I thoroughly have been enjoying it, and I'm happy that things are going well.
Pat yourself on the back, Invader League organizers.
Yeah, you guys are doing
good job,
great.
team.
I was not patting myself, by the way. That was a philosophical. I was not involved. So
pat yourself on the back.
Pat yourself on the back for taking all my advice and critique.
No. I was not patting myself, just to be clear. That's Ghostwalking and Nima and all those guys. So
yep. They're doing a great job, gentlemen. They're doing a great job.
Yep. All right. Right. Why don't we land this plane before we crash it?
All right.
We're the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I am Jay.
I'm Lucas.
Is this like an ASMR sign off or what?
Yeah.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Okay.